Young people have so many careers to choose from. Why farming?
Back from America, all my friends were in like Microsoft, Facebook, this and that.
What point did you see natural farming and farming are two different things?
I don't think many people know that food loses a maximum amount of nutrition within 24 hours of harvest.
Can you give me like a to-do list? What is heirloom?
It's a salt, so when we put salt in our pickles and fermenting food, we do it for its antimicrobial properties.
Should you have a land to start farming?
I feel once people have grown even one vegetable once, they have a lot more appreciation for produce.
My grandmother was the richest woman I have seen in life.
So we are not the most evolved so that we can control other species. We are the most evolved so that we can help species, we can manage nature in a way that's mutually beneficial and all.
What we should be aware of, what as a customer we should look for. Welcome to the first episode of Vatsa Padam's Conscious Living podcast. Through this podcast, we wish to create awareness regarding conscious living, regarding what we consume in the form of food, in the form of thoughts, in the form of cosmetics, every possible way we input to our body. So, in this pursuit, today let's go to our first guest. He is Neel Solanki. He's a young dynamic farmer from Pune. He runs Au Natural Farm in the foothills of Sayadri along with his family. He studied sustainable agricultural course abroad and he is back in India trying to create awareness among farmers, trying to help them move from chemical farming into natural farming. He's doing it with his family and he's into conducting workshops on urban gardening and so much more that we can learn from this young dynamic person. And here we are. Welcome, Neel.
Thank you.
So, Neel, at this point of time, at this point of era, young people have so many careers to choose from. Why farming?
So I think I was lucky in the sense that I didn't ever have confusion. It was just naturally, it felt like the right thing since about 7th or 8th grade that I had decided I want to be a farmer. And the funny thing is, I don't think in many generations anyone in our family has been a farmer on both sides, my mom's side, dad's side. We don't own any agricultural land ancestrally. We don't have any record of anyone who was in this field. There's no traditional knowledge. How many families, the grandmothers will be like, oh, this wild plant is useful. We were fully city folk, disconnected from the village and disconnected from farming. But I think our generation also grew up a lot hearing about climate change, environmental collapse, chemicals in food. A lot of us had health issues. I personally was born with a lot of allergies to things like milk. And then when I read up about it, I realized it all goes back to agriculture. The way that milk was produced in America, and when my mom consumed it while she was pregnant with me, that led to me having the milk allergy. And a lot of people in my generation also had milk allergies. Same way with wheat. My mom is allergic to gluten, and if you look at it, it was not a common thing before the Green Revolution. It was after the varieties were hybridized to make it more economically viable, but it was less nutritious and palatable for us. And then on top of that, they were sprayed with tons and tons of chemicals, and it kept increasing, which is why you see places like Punjab, for example. Just few days back, I heard the statistics that in all of India, Punjab, which is the bread basket of our country, where most wheat is grown, that has the highest level of gluten intolerance now. Most number of celiac patients of any state in India. And that's because of the way they grow it, the way they're exposed to all those pesticides which are used, herbicides. Our body does not distinguish between the chemical, whether this was applied to the food or whether this is part of the food. So when we're eating that wheat which is coated with these chemicals, our body sees that wheat has all these dangerous chemicals and it triggers an immune response.
Right.
So that's when people start developing allergies to these things. So coming from that background and having grown up around it, I initially wanted to become a full-time environmentalist like most kids. I wanted to become a tree planter, professionally planting trees, but that's not a career option yet, sadly.
Right.
So farming felt like a perfect way to count as having a career. So people wouldn't think I'm this crazy person, but I could also plant trees, I could also work towards restoring nature. And today we are blessed to have access to so much information of so many different forms of agriculture beyond traditional agriculture, which we know it as,
Right.
like permaculture, syntropic agriculture, regenerative forestry, which incorporates these themes of environmental restoration, protecting the environment and all of that, along with agriculture as a way to grow food for us and our communities. So I think it became the perfect fit. So as soon as in 7th or 8th grade that like light bulb moment came, then I was like, okay, I want to be a farmer now. That's it.
Wow, it's surprising that, seventh or eighth grade kids are so much into having so much of fun. But it's really nice that you carried it through, from you had that spark at seventh and then you carried it through and became the mission of your life. It's wonderful. Now, what I want to know is that, one thing is this, but farming itself is it's not an easy thing. It's like one thing is to have garden, right? You have a garden and then you see. Then how did you build this tenacity to get into full-time farming? See, I can understand, you're attracted by it. So see, many kids are attracted by gardening, right? So from gardening to making it your profession, because every stepping stone in that will, I'm sure, first to start with your parents, right? Your parents may think that, oh no, I thought you'd get into IT, So how did you manage that?
Yeah, so luckily my parents were very supportive with the thought of studying agriculture, but I think they had the expectation I would become a professor or work in a agribusiness company or something like that, or become like somebody who goes around helping people transition. I don't think the thought of becoming just a full-time farmer was on their mind, because they were like, he doesn't have land, he doesn't have that background. They didn't think I would be capable of taking like the powder and like digging the soil myself and all of that, because I lived a very sheltered city life. Gardening is one thing, gardening is simple, not very intensive, you can do whatever, but farming, you have to really get on the ground, you have to work with the soil. So they were a little shocked when in lockdown, so I had got into a PhD program for organic agriculture, but I turned it down saying that I want to come back and start farming. So they were a little shocked then, but I think considering it was lockdown also, they were like, sure, come, try it out. And if it doesn't work out, if it feels like it's not your cup of tea, then you can always go back. And luckily I had a deferred admission back then, where the university also told me that if you want, after a year or two, we'll happily take you back for the PhD program. So I gave it a shot. And of course, in lockdown, I believe you also started a similar time. There were a lot of challenges with where do you sell the produce, where do you get all the stuff from the farm. But it just felt so fulfilling. And I think little bit goes back then to spirituality, where in the Bhagavad Gita also God has said that it's better to do what you feel is your dharma without any success than to do somebody else's duty or do somebody else's aptitude, follow that with lot of success. So that gave me a little more strength that no, it's okay, this is what my calling is. It can't be a coincidence that I have such a strong desire to do farming. There must be something in it for me, whether or not immediately I feel like, oh, I've made so much money. And coming back from America, all my friends were in like Microsoft, Facebook, this and that. Right. So there were opportunities where people were like, oh, you could have also done that, you could have done this. But I always luckily felt that it was a good decision for me.
No, fantastic. I hope kids listening to this podcast take this point very seriously. You have a calling and you go for it, as you rightly mentioned about Bhagavad Gita. Just go for it and wait for things to open up by itself, right? Okay, now I want to see, I want to go a little technical into this. You have, at what point did you see natural farming and farming are two different things?
I don't think there was ever an exact moment. Obviously, coming from the environmentalist kid background, organic farming always felt like the right thing, but the exact nature of chemical farming and how destructive it was didn't really strike me till I started studying deeper when I was in college. And also, I think we are lucky to have access to YouTube, which is such a good knowledge base. I mean, a lot of people criticize that you can't learn things online and stuff for free. You have to go to a college or you have to go to school for it or something. But there's so much information out there now that you can really learn a lot from that. So I, before college itself, started seeing like videos about permaculture, seeing videos about organic farming, about natural farming, about Japanese natural farming, Indian natural farming, Korean natural farming. And through all of those things, then that spark ignited that, yeah, what they are saying is correct, that chemical agriculture in the short term may feel like, oh, it's great for farmers, it's doing really well for the economy, people are fed and all. But in the long term, if there are so many negative consequences, then for how long? And the UN has also said that we have only like a few decades worth of, with our current practices, 50, 60 years worth of arable land left. Right. The way which soil is degrading, soil is being lost. So it's not going to be feasible within my lifetime itself. If I end up living to 80, 90, I'll be alive to see that moment where the land is no longer usable, majority of it. So I felt like this is the time to take some action, and that's when I decided that, yeah, natural farming is the right way to go about it. Whereas chemical farming in the short term, maybe I would make money faster or something. But I knew that at that point that it's not good for my health, it's not good for the health of the soil, it's not good for the health of the people working with me on the farm. They get exposed to those chemicals. So that made the decision easier.
Right. So when we talk about conventional farming, what is that one thing that you learned that made you seriously uncomfortable? See, we hear about World War II's chemical being transferred into pesticides or fertilizers and all that. But then when you actually went down to the ground, to the fields, what is that one thing that, immediately you felt very uncomfortable? No, this is not the thing that I need to touch. I need anybody to touch. What was that thing?
That's a wonderful question. So when I started going to farms to see, initially we were looking for farms to rent, and then once we started working our neighbors' farms we would visit, just the soil quality, it really amazed me that the soil is so hard like a rock in those farms. There's literally, coming from a gardener, you have felt like good soils when you put compost and stuff, it's so fluffy and light and it feels alive, it smells good. But these soils were so hard and it was just almost like cement kind of something. So I felt it was very destructive for the plant, in the sense that, like, the soil is the basis of everything, right? Our entire civilization is built on the basis of that soil. And if the soil is in such a bad state, we can pump it with chemicals and it's basically like putting an IV drip. But humans can't get healthy with just being fed through IV, right? You have to focus on your diet. The roti sabzi has to be good. Your body has to be healthy. Then you can have like quick fixes and stuff through medication. But you cannot be a healthy human just by surviving through supplements and this. You have to eat good food. So I realized that soils also have to have good food. We need to be feeding them. I mean, the soils aren't, of course, if we left them alone, they would feed themselves. Right. But if we want something out of it, we have to give it something in return.
Right. So this you felt in the in and around Pune. That is where you are working, and that's what you found in
so I do my farming mostly around Saswad. Okay. So I've seen mostly stuff in that region, and Saswad is one of the primary agricultural regions around Pune, which supplies a major portion of like our fruits and vegetables. Right. So it's very important for our city also. I think it's surprising that now we are trying to think of converting Saswad into like a new Pune kind of thing, and make buildings there. But I don't know but true or not, who's going to, where are we going to get our food from? Exactly. I think people have this impression that food will come from somewhere or the other. But local food, I don't think many people know that food loses a maximum amount of nutrition within 24 hours of harvest. And then within 48 hours it's even less. So if we don't have access to local food, we're going to get food which is coming from who knows how far, how wide. It may look like the same thing. A lettuce head may look like lettuce, cabbage may look like cabbage, but when it's freshly harvested local food, we need that to supply us. I mean, we didn't evolve to get food from far away. We evolved to get food directly from farmers. They harvest it right then. We make the food, eat it within the village confines. Now our societies changed, our civilizations changed, but we should still focus on, when we're making cities, when we're developing cities, that where is the food going to come from. And it's good for the farmers also to have access to that market. The local farmers, if they're so close, it cuts down on the carbon emissions of bringing the food to something. It cuts down on the number of middlemen that eat into the money that should go to the farmer growing it. Farmers can directly group together and get a tempo for their village, and they can send their produce to Pune. But if they were somewhere in Madhya Pradesh to send it to Pune, they have to send it to their major city. That major city will send it to some, maybe Nagpur or something. From Nagpur, another person will take their commission and send it to Pune. So the money, that's why we are hearing stories of farmers selling their produce for like 2 rupees, 3 rupees and something. Whereas I'm lucky to be part of food communities in Pune, where farmers directly come from around within 100 kilometers of Pune. They directly come every weekend and they're able to meet the consumers. They're able to talk to them. The consumers know who is growing their food, how they're growing it, what kind of people they are, what kind of energy they've put into the food of their own. And the farmers also get fair prices. So they're able to put that extra effort into the farm. They're able to put that extra trolley of Shane Khat, or they're able to take care of desi cows instead of the hybrid cows, which produce better bacteria for the soil but produce less milk output for them, because they're able to then sell the produce they grow with that cow manure for decent rates. So I think that is something we really need to think about.
Neel, I don't know whether you realize you have given a point that's mind-blowing to me. I tell you why. Because when town planners make towns, right, they are very particular. Roads karna hai, you have pipelines, you need drainage, you need this and that. But then the point you said that they should have an agricultural sector close by, from where they will get, the city will get fed from where. Wow, this is what do I say? This is very inspirational, groundbreaking thought. I'm sure you should take it to more people. I mean, you should be able to influence the government to do something like this. Seriously, I'm very much impressed that this thought. Even though I am doing farming myself, but this never. It never crossed my mind at all, right? And this is the most important thing we need to think. Absolutely. Town planning, where the food will come from. It's fantastic, and I'm really impressed with this thought. Thank you for. Right now that we've already touched upon soil, see, in Vatsa Padam we have certain things, right? Like apart from the regular no parabens, no sulfates, no this, no that. We have very particular. We'll not bring petroleum-based ingredients into it. As obviously the reason is so much processing goes in. And we don't want to use that. We go with, as much as possible, only plant-based ingredients, except very tried and tested fermented ingredients that we have that are available. Like that, for agriculture, are there a few things which you say, no, this will never get into my farm. Through this, it will never get into my products, the produce that I make, and it will not go to my consumers. Do you have anything like that?
So I think there are many things, but I've set a basic hierarchy of what is the most important, and then slowly going down are things which can be worked on later. So most important, I'd say, is herbicide. That is something which it's become too convenient for people, and of course it's difficult to weed and all, but it's become so popular, and now after so many years we're finding out about like what those herbicides are doing, not only to us but the farmers that are using it. So Saswad, I had interacted with somebody in the government recently. The Purandar district, last census, it had around a population of 2-3 lakhs. Say with time maybe it's increased to 5, 6, 7, 8 lakhs also maybe. He told me right now there are officially recorded cases of cancer is 50,000 in a district of just few lakh people. And those are the officially recorded. There was some local from the village next to him. He said so many people don't record, and report also, all the elderly people. They feel like who's going to go to the hospital at this age, and also they quietly suffer and pass away at home. But that herbicides being linked to cancer by courts and by many different organizations, it's not a coincidence, right, that these people are getting cancer at such a high rate now. And in India, as you may have noticed, people still have that sense that the spray is not stronger than me, so they won't wear the proper thing. They'll be like, I'll brave through it, I've eaten like desi ghee and makke ki roti and all, so this herbicide won't do anything. But it's causing problems to them eventually. There's a cancer train in Punjab has become very famous, thanks to the work of many people like Vandana Shivaji, who have highlighted that there are like trains full of people with cancer going for treatment to Rajasthan from Punjab, and all those people, where did they get cancer? They're not exposed to McDonald's food, they're not exposed to like all sorts of what we now say this is causing us, that this fried chips are causing and this and that. It's the herbicides which are causing them to have these chronic, and not only cancer but chronic diseases. We are not realizing 3/4 of the world's population right now has at least one chronic disease, like diabetes, like many the general chronic diseases. There's chronic fatigue also now. There is chronic headaches. All of those chronic diseases which don't. Gastric is such a huge thing. Then all the celiac disease also is linked back to these herbicides. So that's one thing which I absolutely say, please don't. And there are ways to control it. We can work on those. It'll take time. Food may get a little more pricey if we have to use herbicides, but that money also goes into the village economy only when you're calling the maushis to weed it. They get a little more empowerment, they get a little more cash to spend. Otherwise, when you do the weed control, which you also must be familiar with, the green manuring, when you grow crops like sun hemp, you're getting weed control also and you're getting fertility. Or when you mulch the soil, not with plastic mulch, that's another, it's a little lower than herbicide on the hierarchy list. I understand that many people don't have access to workforce where they're working, or it becomes expensive. But when you do mulching with rice straw, we do on our farm some rice straw. I'll send you some videos of those. It looks beautiful. It's like the whole farm is coated with this beautiful like blanket of rice straw, and we don't get many weeds in that. Weeding, which would take maybe 4 hours for a bed, now only takes 15 minutes, because you just go and pick out, and few weeds don't make a difference, as you must have also realized that little bit of weeds, it's just, they're just natural native plants which are coming up many times, and they support different systems, they support different insects which help your plants, they support the soil, they support the microorganisms in the soil.
They don't dry out the soil.
They don't dry out, they provide that cover from UV rays and sunlight and harsh heat. So that is one. Then I would say urea. That is something which has really destroyed the soils. The hard pan soils, the rock solid soils is all because of the use of urea. Because bacteria are the ones that breathe life literally into the soil. They make it loose by releasing those gases. They secrete glues which aggregate the soil naturally into those tea bag consistencies, and they produce those beautiful mitti ki khushboo, what we call. But urea, it's a salt. So when we put salt in our pickles and fermenting food, we do it for its antimicrobial properties. So when we're like dousing our fields in urea, we're killing those microbes. And people don't realize one of the microbes being killed are the nitrogen fixing bacteria, which would naturally take nitrogen from the air. And it's not just beans. Even in the soil without plants also, there are nitrogen fixing bacteria at a slower rate than with legumes. And in general, plants have that ability to interact with nitrogen fixing bacteria that will meet a good portion of their nitrogen requirement without having to use chemicals. So basically, we're paying somebody to take away our ability to for nitrogen in a way that takes away our ability to fix our own nitrogen into our own soils as farmers. So we are then getting more dependent on urea. So then without urea, they'll feel the crops aren't growing only. So that's one thing. Then pesticides. You are plenty familiar that the ecological collapse, how devastating it is for the farmers themselves, that if there are no natural predators for the insects, you're going to have to keep spraying. So it's a cycle. Chemical farming is a cycle of dependency. It's designed that way because for companies to become huge billion-dollar companies, they need dependent customers. For skincare also, you must be familiar that if you put an ingredient that would have made people dependent, you may have become like a giant public listed company by now.
Of course, yes.
Because they'd be forced to continuously put that product on their face to maintain that same effect. Whereas if you put things which naturally heal and naturally improve the health of the skin, they will have to buy less from you.
True.
But they will be more happy, they'll be healthier. So the same is with the soil, that we need to focus on breaking that cycle of dependency for the sake of our farmers. That our farmers are in, if our production has increased so much after green revolution, if our yields have increased so much, why are farmers in debt? Because that money is all going to these companies, the chemical companies, and the farmers are not getting anything out of it. So I many times tell the farmers, if you're not making money, already you're not making money, then why aren't you going to natural farming? Maybe you'll take a year or two of making no money, but at least you won't have to take loans for it. You have a cow, you have access to water, you have access to soil. I'll be happy to share seeds with them, that you can grow things like sun hemp, tag, because seed saving is something I'm passionate about. So you can get started. At least you won't go into losses those 2 years. You'll spend some time, money, you'll get some harvest out of it for sure. I guarantee them. It's not that many people have this fear that if I don't put chemicals, I won't get any money. I won't get even like a single.
That's where we lack, the old knowledge that was there, that is gone, and that is the reason there's fear. Because they just, for past decades, you have just gotten used to another system. The old system knowledge is not there, and now there is fear to get back to that.
Absolutely. And I think we've reached a point where like 2 generations of farmers have happened since green revolution. So the new generations currently managing the farms, not my generation but the generation previous one, they don't personally recall a time when it was done in any other way. So they feel this is traditional, this is the way that it has been happening for so long. They don't remember what their great grandfathers may have done for their farming, and how they also sustainably they would have farmed at that time. They would have still grown food.
That's right.
It's not that people were always starving in India. There's a myth that has been made that before green revolution, that was the effect of colonization and all of that, but we have millennia of history where it was not, all our history is not about that, oh, people died because there was no food this year, people died, there was no food. Those are temporary famines, but overall we were, many of the colonial ones were artificially created. But it was not that we had a very prosperous civilization because our soils were producing food for us. If our soils were not producing, if we didn't have urea until like last century, then how did we have such prosperous civilizations? How are we coming so far ahead in terms of our contribution to the GDP and everything without having food? So that's something which people, and I think a lot of people are now realizing that, there was a time before green revolution and we were doing farming there, and we were doing farming successfully then. And people now also are doing natural farming successfully, and they're producing yields comparable if not more than with chemical farming. It's just that the system of knowledge transfer which happened, the transfer from grandfather to son to grandson and all of that, where they would say, oh, I grew this crop next to this crop and they both performed so beautifully, that was broken, and that was intentionally broken, I feel. Because they, at that time, they wanted, I think there was a problem also, I don't remember the exact details, but there was a trade deficit between US and India. They wanted to fix that trade deficit by making Indian farmers start using the agri-chemicals, so that USA would also get money back from India than it was paying to India for India's produce. So there are many factors into it. Now, I don't like to go into a full conspiracy theorist headset and think that there were like evil people planning. But regardless, the consequences I don't feel were good in the long run, and we should now try to go back to how did things happen before the chemicals and how we can adopt those practices and improve them. I think many people also are too rigid traditionalist in Indian natural farming, where they're like, it has to have happened 300 years ago for it to happen now. I think as humans, we need to evolve and we need to develop on those ideas. If we see something good happening in natural farming in some other country, we can adopt that also here. It's not that it has to be listed in the Vedas, otherwise we don't want to do that in our farm.
Yeah, that's another issue, when we completely say scientific things, nothing should be taken. It should only be this, that's another another movement going that way, everything else is wrong, only that is right. We should have the intelligence to be able to see what's good for the soil, what's good for us, whatever is, that is what at Vatsa Padam we do. We are always looking out for newer ingredients, newer things. Our only concern is if it is safe, is it effective, is it plant based. So that is what we look for, and I think the same thing was you're saying in farming, that should be the key, modern farmer, that should be the thing, right? That's nice. So I had the question on dependency, which I think we already discussed, like how the farmers are getting into this trap. So Can you make it like, like a flow chart? Like, you can give me like a flow chart where you say, okay, this is what the farmer does, this, and because of this, he is now trapped. He is into this system. And now how to break that trap? If you can just give us that thing, because I think what people need, because I'm a farmer myself, my husband and I, we are into farming ourselves. What we see is that, again, YouTube and all, we learn a lot, we hear a lot, but a concrete to-do list is missing many times, So we struggle when you get into farming, as individuals, when you get into farming, we struggle. So can you give me like a to-do list? Okay, you do this, and you won't get into the trap. The farmer, existing farmer, right now is in this trap. You can do this, but this is how you break the trap. And this is how a new person can also be free of this trap.
Sure. So as farmers, I feel that our job is not to grow crops. Our job is to, basically in a scientific term, increase soil organic matter. Our need to, you can say make our soils alive again, that's a different term, and you can say make our soils healthy. Those all mean the same thing. But from a scientific perspective, it's about increasing organic matter. And that doesn't happen just by buying organic matter and putting it. That organic matter isn't just the manure or the dead plant material breaking down or dead animal material, and it's also including the alive microbes, the alive insects in the soil. The alive mammals also in the soil have a use. The alive birds above the soil, that's also part of organic matter. So we need to build that, and when we build that organic matter is the food for the plants. The organic matter feeds the microbes, and the microbes feed the plant. So our job is to increase organic matter. So what I have told many people who say, I have this land, I want to start farming, I have a job also, so I can't get to it, but eventually I want to do it. So if you have time on your hand, and if you are not right now, you're not dependent on making money from the farm, grow lots of trees, grow lots of green manure crops, the sun hemp, the oats, the dhencha, which is a sesbania species. Grow the native trees around the border, which will attract the birds and everything. Create that environment from before you start farming. You have a head start then when you start farming. Don't give it to somebody to do chemical farming for sure. While many people think that until I go there, let me give it on rent to someone. I'd say rather than that, just keep it with yourself if you don't find a reliable natural farmer to manage it for you, and focus on these small things. Ultimately, you won't even have to put a lot of manure. You won't have to buy anything from outside. If your organic matter is good, you can immediately start growing plants on it. If you have the leaf litter for many years has collected and composted, if you've put green manure in the soil which has composted and broken down into humus, then you don't need to buy also inputs from outside. You can just make nice beds, put some plants on it, put some mulch. That's something which is the step 2 after increasing organic matter, is to mulch so that the organic matter doesn't get lost. People don't realize a majority of the plant's roots and the beneficial microbes which feed them nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium naturally through the soil are all in 6 inches of the soil, top 6 inches. Right. The roots can go deep and all, usually that is more for moisture, but nutrients is all in the top layer of the soil. So if we don't mulch that, and that whole layer dries out and gets exposed to sun, and all the microbes die. It's a sterilizing. When we put things in the sun, the UV rays and all automatically sterilize it. Clothes also, many times people say that you don't have to put heavy detergents, just put some mild detergent to remove the dirt and put it in the sun to dry so that it sterilizes. Then there will be no bacteria and all harmful ones on it. So we're sterilizing the soil if we don't mulch it. And when we sterilize the soil, that organic matter again gets lost into the air. All that months and years of effort gets lost. So build organic matter, mulch it using more organic matter, and that organic matter will also break down into the soil and add fertility. But our goal is to increase organic matter. And a slight sidetrack from that is that that's why also I am against hybrid varieties, especially of grains, because in the past, if you look at our older varieties, so many of them, so in rice, jawar, wheat, they were all much taller varieties. Right. And people thought this is a waste of nutrients, this is a waste of time and all. But it was dual purpose, because that tall plant stem and the leaves and all which weren't sold off, they would return to the soil. Either directly they would be like just tilled in or let to rot, or they would be fed to the cows and the cow manure is put into the soil. So the yield, if you were to think about it in terms of just grains, maybe the short varieties are higher yielding per acre. But when you think about that, we've got say 80% of the yield of grains which a hybrid variety will give, but we've got like 10,000 times more organic matter on our soil, which is going to fertilize our next crops and crops for like years and years to come. Then you realize that the yield is so much higher in the older varieties which had those long stems, which had those large leaves of grass and stuff. So organic matter. In short, I'd say that our job, we should focus on organic matter. One way or the other, we have to bring back organic matter to the soil as farmers, and the crops will grow themselves. Then we just have to do little bit of management here and there, but we don't have to feed the plants.
Fantastic. You're opening windows to farming that nobody thought of. I mean, I would say the regular people wouldn't have thought of, because
I
for us,
got that information from somewhere else.
because generally farming means what is important from the farm, the grains that you buy, you take. You won't believe it. Every time I have an argument, a kind of a heated argument with my helper there. After every time one harvest is over, he wants that place to be plowed and left to dry in the sun. For all that, he is a villager. For generations he's been doing this. So like this is completely opposite to what we are actually supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Right? And I think that's something which conventional agriculture in America has also adopted, cover cropping. Right. For that reason, they will plant something even though they ultimately will kill the cover crop with herbicides, which defeats the purpose in my opinion. But the science has also realized that you need to have something living on it. Right. That plants are basically the skin of the soil. That you need to have that protection layer from everything. If we also walked around without skin, we would be like burning up and getting all sorts of diseases and everything. But plants are what protect the soil and keep it healthy and happy. So we need to have that skin on it at all times. And so there's a senior farmer in our farming community in Pune, Girija Venkatramanthai. She's been doing this for a long time, much longer than I have, and I learned a lot from her. So she told me one point which really that opened my eyes. She said, if a crop does not sell, or if a crop rots, like onions is something which we have a huge issue in Maharashtra of onion crops going to waste because people will harvest and they don't get good rates or something. She said, if it rots, I make sure it rots in my field and I don't count that as a loss. Wow. Because those nutrients have all gone back to the soil. Those tons of onions which may not have immediately sold and made money, they are going back into the soil as nutrients for the next crops and all of that. So that nutrition isn't going to waste. I've seen so many times onions don't sell. They throw it on the side of the road. Yeah. And it's not that I understand if they've come to Pune to sell it at the market and then many times it's reached a point where just the cost of transportation isn't feasible. Yeah. So they throw it on the side of the road or they throw it as a protest. That's different. But in our village, the farm is right here and they just dump it outside the farm. So I'm like, just leave it in your farm, rotor over it, just mix it into the soil. Even if they're doing chemical farming, those nutrients are still something. In that case, they paid for those nutrients. They've paid for the fertilizers and all of that. They've paid for the nitrogen in that. Those weren't naturally obtained. So might as well send that at least back to the soil so that you get advantage of that thing. Think of it as a green manure.
I also think that, this landscape gardening has disturbed our minds. We want everything clean. Yeah. Farm be clean. It has to be clean. That landscape gardening has made us think that, everything should be clean. Around the trees it should be clean. Around everywhere it has to be clean.
So, funny story related to that. So we used to have a fig farm on a previous farm we rented. We planted figs. Anjeer, yes. We had figs over there. Yes. So, Saswad is a big fig growing region. Purandar figs are very delicious and popular and they've got a GI tag. So we also planted those same varieties and all. And first year we rotated everything was clean. Whatever the locals told us, we took their advice. And then after that, once the trees grew bigger, we didn't weed it. We just left the grasses to grow and people would come and be like, what's this nonsense you're doing? Just till it and clean it. But at that point, I thought that what's the point, because like in nature, when you see the giant banyan trees and the peepal trees, nobody's going and rotating around them. They are able to send their roots much deeper. They in fact thrive on that community of plants. Plants need that community. And I was lucky that most of the quote unquote weeds, we were a little outside the village boundaries towards the wild areas. So they were all native grasses and native flowers and everything. They were not like the agricultural weeds, the Congress grasses and the crab grasses and Bermuda grass, which you don't want to a certain extent. Many of them are invasive, they're not native to our thing, but these are all native grasses which grew 7-8 feet tall in the span of 3-4 months. And the amount of carbon they're trapping, and when you take it, you don't need to rotate it also. We would just get a tractor to come with this flat plate behind it, and they would just run over it and push it all to the ground. And the grasses all break naturally. So they go and they form a beautiful layer of mulch on the ground, and those figs, I kid you not, were the sweetest figs I have had ever in my life. I have had chemical figs also from nearby. I have had organic figs also from people putting lots of Jeevamrut, cow manure and anything. But those figs, even though we did not give them that much Jeevamrut, cow manure or anything, because we planted a little too much and didn't have like the cash flow coming in the farm to afford. We had around 1,500 trees. Okay. So to give each one of them like 20-30 kgs of the prescribed manure and all. So we didn't do anything. We would give Jeevamrut 3-4 times a year. And just the mulch would decompose every monsoon, and new grasses would grow, and we'd flatten those after monsoon. And just in that cycle, the taste was unlike anything we've had before. They were like sweeter than sugar. So that's something which I feel like again goes back to that same philosophy, that people want to see cleanliness in their orchards. In mango orchards, you'll see also they're going and killing these tiny weeds, and the mango trees are so huge.
Big,
so what difference is it going to make to those trees? But I think it goes back, and like you said, landscape gardening. Many people don't realize lawns also, which we've gotten fascinated. In India, it's getting worse, but in America, every house has a lawn. But lawns were actually invented in Europe by the rulers, the kings and the queens, as a way to show that we have this much land and we don't need to grow food on it. We're so rich that we don't have to grow food. It was a political statement by them. So, but there was no need for people to adopt it that much. If you have a lawn in a park, kids can play there. But every house does not need to have so much grass growing. Grow your vegetables, grow some fruit trees. I feel people in India also, if they have bungalows, rather than wasting so much space on that, make like a small bed, grow your own leafy greens on that, grow some fruit trees, mango trees, grow so beautifully in our climate.
Kothambir and
go grow kothambir, grow some palak. It does not take much effort. Grow some basil, people grow some herbs. Kadi patta is such an easy plant to grow some of those.
It just keeps coming.
So then, of course, there is some beauty to landscapes which are like flowering plants and beautifully designed, but I at the same time don't just do it because of convention, that lawns are necessary and it looks good and everything needs to be clean and there needs to be no big plants or grasses or weeds or anything. Think of it more holistically, that what is this land, that what is our responsibility to the land also. I think that's going back to Native American indigenous philosophy. They never had the concept of land ownership. It was stewardship, that they were the guardians of that land, and if they wanted something out of it, they had a responsibility to give back and take care of it. So we also need to start slowly rethinking our perspective towards what is land. That land, if we say it's our matra bhumi and all of that, but are we treating it like a mother? When you have a mother, do you say that I own her, I bought her, and now I'm just going to keep her here?
Take from her. Not do anything for her.
I'm not going to give her food, she should only give me food and everything. That you have to have that relationship with the land. So that's going to your landscape.
Now, after listening to this much about farming, there somebody may think okay, now I'd like to do, I would also like to do, at least for my family I would like to do. So my question is, should you have a land to start farming?
So I still don't have land. We are working on it, but that goes to another point, which is that land rates are so expensive and people are buying land just for investment without using it, that there are many people like me. I'm not going to say that I'm the only person trying to do farming in this generation. There are so many people who want to do farming, but many people can't even think of affording land. And if they afford land, it'll be far away where there's no infrastructure to bring it for sale and stuff. So that's something we also have to think about, that if land all becomes unaffordable, if it only becomes affordable for construction and for factories,
Or
ultra rich as investments, where are we going to get our food from? And people don't want to farm anymore in the villages. The people who are traditionally farming, they're getting education and all the doors are opening for them as they should. But they should be free to do whatever they desire. But there are people who want to do farming. They don't have to. It should not be that only the debt ridden and the poorest of poor need to grow food for us. There's that social hierarchy aspect also, where people imagine that farmers have to be the people who have no option only. They should just keep growing food for us and make little bit of money, and they should be very happy and spiritual, that like, oh, I'm content with this 10 rupees.
Life, enjoy rural life.
But it's not like that. They should have access to all the opportunities city people do, and city people should have access to the opportunities of going to the village and settling there, and without having to earn. Like now many people are like, no, you should earn till you're 60, work in some IT company and then go and farm. But that's not the way it should be, right? I mean, we can't only have 60-year-old and 60 plus farmers. There have to be some young people also in it who devote. Now I still feel I'm a student, I've barely learned anything, but maybe by the time I'm 80, I would have experienced so much and stuff that I may have something to contribute more, that I can give some extra push to other farmers and new farmers, that from my like these many years of experience, I can give you this advice which will help you in your life. Whereas if I started only after 65, 70,
and you need a lot of bodily strength to do farming. It's not it's
it's not easy, and we are reaching a point where rightfully so that we can't take it for granted that there will be poor people willing to work for us.
exactly.
That's another thing, that if I have enough money, then I'll hire people to work and all. They also have other opportunities. They also want to do other things in life. They have their own lands also to take care of. So at some point, there are many things you have to do yourself in farming.
And right now they have land, so they're able to sell the land and actually become rich. Because many city dwellers are buying those lands. We are seeing in the area we are in the Bore area. It's very hard to get land there because people are buying left, right and center.
All around Pune, I think that's the situation. In the part in Saswad area also, because the airport, ring road and stuff, it's only become, and the farmers say also themselves, I don't want to sell it to a farmer. They've told me point blank that I don't want to sell it to you for farming, because you're not going to be able to buy it at the same price which somebody who's going to do like farmhouse plotting or make a factory on it is going to buy it for. And economics wise, it makes sense. You have to sell to the highest bidder.
Blame them for
that. But that's where our government also has to take, and they have to come and manage the system in a way that for the long term, we can't only have factories. We have to have farms also, like we discussed before. That for Pune, if Saswad becomes fully industrialized and urbanized, where are we getting our food from? And we can say that after Saswad we'll go to Satara district, and Satara district will give food, and then Satara district will also become urbanized, and then where will we can't just keep going further and further away. We need to think about where our food for our immediate community is going to come from.
I guess we should start SAZ, like SEZ they have special economic zones, like that we should have SAZ zones.
There is some sort of legislation, but nobody really regards it as much. I mean, it's a matter of just spending 10,000 rupees to get an agricultural certificate, and then you buy the land and you keep it like that. And then when you don't use it for a certain amount of years, you can convert it to non-agricultural land, and then you can sell it for a even higher profit. But there needs to be someone checking and making sure that our agricultural lands around Pune and other cities are growing food for that. There should be that you have to use it. You have to be growing something on this land. Or if you're not growing it yourself, then the government should make it mandatory that you have to rent it out to somebody to grow food. But there has to be something growing at least once or twice a year in 2 seasons.
We were in UK. I remember that every city council had what's called as allotments, and these allotments were owned by the city council, and you could rent out even a small bed, even just a small bed. You want to teach your children how to farm, it's within the city council itself. You could go and do your little bit of farming and all that. I think at least that much at least we should bring in, if not acres and acres, you should at least be able to bring in that, so that people will get interested. They come with their families, they stay, the water is there, everything is available, and people can come and experience it. And then at one point of time, when they have enough money or however it is, they can go and do this thing.
Absolutely.
Now again we're coming to the same point, like if you don't own a land, what are the options?
So you can rent land, which we've been doing. So we've rented out land which wasn't being used by the farmers. The farmers may have some other occupation or may not have the resources to take care of it. So we rent it. It is a little challenging to find. There is no like how Magic Bricks is there to rent out houses and stuff. There's no Magic Bricks to rent out agricultural land. You have to get on the field, you have to go to the villages, talk to people. Sometimes you have to persuade them that you're not using your land, let me use it, I'll take care of it well. Explain to them. People think that rural people are all like they don't understand anything, but if you tell them, I'm going to take care of your soil well, I will plant trees on this soil, fruit trees I'll plant, I'll make the soil fertile, I'll get some water harvesting situation done. Nobody is going to say no to that. If you explain it in a way that shows them that it's a benefit for them also, nobody is going to say no. Or else if you happen to know, if your uncle, aunt, many people in the cities have people whose uncle, aunts, friends, family friends own land. Talk to them that you have this land just sitting here, and it doesn't have to be a big land. Sometimes people think, oh, they have only like half an acre, so what am I going to do there? To start off with half an acre. Just ask them, can I use this? You have a borewell there, right? And you have electricity and you have land. So can I use this? I'm going to try farming on this land. And then once it's successful, you can move to maybe a bigger land. Till then, you'll have contacts in the village. You'll have a network with the community there and become part of them. So we have people now coming to us. We had to look very hard for rental land the first 2 times we were trying to rent. But now regularly people come. I talk to this person, their son is going to the city for work, so nobody's there. He's an old man. He doesn't have anyone to take care of his farm. So he's asked if you want to use it to farm on and stuff. So like that you will slowly get the opportunities to do it. And if not that, I think the government also has some like long-term leases, but I've not explored how that works. I think sometimes it's a little difficult also because you don't know, like you need to know the right person maybe sometimes to get access to that opportunity where they rent out like acres and acres of land for 99-year leases and stuff. That's another possibility which people can look into. Or else start with growing on your balcony. Start with growing on the society ka terrace.
Immediately doable.
Yeah, immediately doable. I have some friends, somebody had like bought a plot of land in the city and they made like a factory and cafe over there, and they had a small like 1,000 square foot area space free there just with soil. So they asked, can we use this to garden? So then they're gardening there. They have like around 9, 12 raised beds. We filled it with some nursery soil and all. They grow vegetables there. They grow their own stuff like that. So I think people should explore those opportunities also. I also started off first as a gardener, growing on my balcony and stuff, grow different vegetables, and then later on I moved to the farm.
So you do workshops, teaching people how to do this. So please tell us about that.
So the workshops for urban gardening we just started recently. So my friends who took that 1,000 square foot of land, they run a small program called Urban Grow Lab in Solanki Vihar in Pune only. So they had the idea that they have a garden there, and they used to come to our farm a lot to help out, and they felt they were learning stuff from me, but I don't feel like I was like teaching anything, but maybe from like the experiences and stuff, they were very happy always that like, oh, we got to learn something. So they were the ones who suggested, why don't you take some like gardening workshops for people who want to grow their own food specifically. So even though it's urban gardening, we make it clear that it's not about like, of course I can give tips about how to grow your roses and your mogras and all, but my main goal with those workshops is to get people to grow a little bit, even like 1 pot of palak if they grow. And there's a selfish motive behind it, because as a farmer I feel once people have grown even one vegetable once, they have a lot more appreciation for produce. The taste also, they'll know that this palak does not taste like what I'm getting in the market. So then they appreciate when you've grown something like that and give them fresh palak. They'll be like, oh, this is delicious. This is the kind of palak I want.
They'll appreciate the amount of work that is
Absolutely. That's the main thing that they realize that it's not a matter of just placing a seed, sprinkling something on it, and like Jack and the Beanstalk, it grows overnight. That there's a lot of work, there's a lot of knowledge required behind it about like even identifying the pest takes so much effort, as you must have noticed. That as farmers, it's not just a matter of like parishram and hard work. It's a lot of intellectual work also, that you need to know about every single possible pest, and you need to know about which insects are beneficial for your farm. You need to know about which fungus coming up is detrimental for the plant and which fungus is useful for the plant. You need to know about all of those things. So that's something which growing vegetables will give people that perspective. And when people grow vegetables, they want to grow organic usually. A lot more than when they are going to buy. And when they grow organic and when they see that the benefit, how beautiful the food tastes, then they're more willing to buy also natural foods. Then they'll be like, then why am I buying this dirty tomato which tastes like nothing, which tastes like water, when I could be getting this flavorful tomato? So that's another selfish motive behind the workshop. But it's just something we started recently. We just had 2-3 sessions, and now we're planning to do it monthly in this area. And people are looking for things to do. People are looking for hobbies which do not require technology. People want that like little bit of disconnection time, that they shouldn't be like addicted to WhatsApp and reels in those moments. They want something which takes them away and makes them feel good. And gardening, you may also have read that just touching the soil reduces your depression.
Yes.
And it's not just a matter of like spiritual hoo-ha, that like, oh, we are part of the soil. That is there, and if you want to believe that, that is very true. But it's the microbes, the beneficial microbes in that soil, they go into our gut indirectly and stuff when we grow organically, obviously. But those also, the gut brain axis, which they call it, that causes your mind to feel better. It releases those good hormones and all of that, and you end up feeling much better. And your digestive issues also, many times when you're touching soil regularly, when you're getting access to those microbes, beneficial healthy microbes, your gut issues also get better with time.
And also the fact, when you have sat with a plant for 6 months, and at the end of 6 months you see a fruit coming, the kind of joy it gives it's like you feel your life's purpose is
absolutely. And it's not even just the fruit. I think just seeing a new leaf come on a tomato plant, or just it looking nice and lively, that plant,
you feel you've done the goal of your life is
absolutely. And again, Native American philosophy is something which I've been reading about, so it keeps saying they believe that as humans, our innate desire is to take care of land and to help other species. That's why we are not the most evolved so that we can control other species. We are the most evolved so that we can help species, we can manage nature in a way that's mutually beneficial and all. And many people feel the world will be better without humans. But according to Native American philosophy, it needs humans to take care of it in the right ways. That fires need to be started in forests sometimes, using that like centuries worth of knowledge when it's appropriate, to prevent massive fires which will destroy things. You need to know when the birds are in season, when they're not in season, and you can set the fire when there's no breeding happening of the birds and the chicks have already emerged. Whereas if it was just left to nature, that fire can come anytime. And the fires will come. It's a natural part of nature. Grasslands also need to be burned, but when do you burn it? That is something which humans can really figure out and control. So that's why we have evolved so much according to their philosophy. There are plants. So there's a book called Braiding Sweetgrass I'm reading. So the purpose of that is, sweetgrass is this variety of grass which they use to make a lot of like braided pots and ropes and all of that. And there was an experiment done very recently where sweetgrass, they wanted to see, so sweetgrass is very sacred to Native Americans, and the Native American community wanted to make sure they're not over harvesting it, because that traditional knowledge was lost to time because of all of the schools where the Native Americans were forced to go and adopt Western lifestyle instead of like the traditional learning systems. So they wanted to figure out scientifically what makes sense. So they did 3 setups. So they did one where nothing was harvested in the sweetgrass. They did one where they did very commercial harvesting, where they'd come and just harvest everything. And they did one called the mindful harvest, which was based on Native American principles from whoever elders were left with that little bit of knowledge, where they would harvest a certain number of reeds, only around like 60-80%, and leave 20%. And they would harvest it at the right time based on their traditions, what season they would harvest it and everything. And they realized that the mindfully harvested one produced a lot more than the unharvested one. You would think that the plant has so many leaves, now it can produce so much food, but many of these plants, we don't realize it, but they've evolved with us. They've evolved to be used in a way that they also need that little bit of trimming, and they need a little bit of harvesting and stuff. They've become codependent on us. So that way, nature, there are many things which are dependent on us which we don't realize, and we don't do those, and we then say that, oh, humans should just go extinct and all of that, then it'll be fine. But we have a role in nature, we evolved to fulfill that role, so we need to go back to what our role is as stewards of the land, to take care of the land, to take care of nature in a way that makes it even more productive for all the species, not just us. And then we'll feel more fulfilled also ourselves, that is our innate calling.
This is amazing, because right now what we are seeing is only negative things about humans on earth, right? This is such an amazing positive thing, that how much we can really be, how much we are really worthy. Human species is so worthy actually, which is very positive. And I feel we need to embrace the positivity more than always looking at the negativity.
Yeah, definitely. I was in the same boat until just few months back, when I came across that book, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmer, I think her name is. She's of Native American ancestry. And I had listened to one of her talks actually before reading her book. And in that she mentioned it, and it was really eye-opening for me also. I always thought I want to do minimum damage by farming and all. Of course, there were little aspects of restoring nature, but I felt that as humans, any action of ours was going to damage. Right. That the fact that we need to eat from nature, that itself was going to damage it.
Right.
But then when I read that, I was like, yeah, there is so much truth in that also, that there's so much good we can do. That our harvest is one part of it, but we can provide for nature also. Our harvest should include what benefits we are giving back to nature also. We shouldn't see ourselves as disconnected from it, that humans is one thing, nature is one thing. We're all part of it. When nature is benefited, we're also benefited. Right. So that really made me feel much better about life and more optimistic. And I think more people also should adopt that mindset, that we don't need to worry about it's not just that humans are destroying nature and we need to stop destroying. We need to focus on how we can actually improve nature. The positive impacts. And I think that's empowering. People get empowered by that, whereas sometimes they get a little disheartened when it's just the negative news that don't do bad things. If it's shifted to do these positive things for the environment, then it'll be even more widely adopted.
There'll be more better purpose in life. Purpose as a species, we'll have better purpose in life.
Absolutely.
So we spoke about the land. So you mentioned that without land, you just start off. Don't wait to get land. Right? Just start off with whatever is available to you. Now the most important point in agriculture is water, right? So when they're buying the land, or when they're acquiring the land in some way or the other, how much they should look into this?
Is very important. I've learned that the hard way. One of the lands we're renting right now has only one borewell which gives just few hours water a day in this season. So it gets very difficult without water to grow anything, obviously. You can do mulching, you can do drip irrigation and all, but those are water preservation. But if you don't have the water to preserve only, then there's no point of any of those. So water is important. At the same time, it's not the be all end all. We have seen many stories of regenerative farmers and all who have brought back water to their land through water harvesting. So people don't realize that Pune we consider like a dry area, but Pune gets just as much total rainfall as most of the places. So Iowa, where I was from, gets rain very regularly, but they get about 80 centimeters total per year, and we get 65 to 70. So it's not a huge difference. Our only quote-unquote problem is it all comes at one time. So we have to adapt then and figure out how to preserve all that water and how to safeguard it. Many times you see people say that nahi ye barish mein bahut the rains are too heavy, the soil will get waterlogged, so make a nala and send the water away. But we have to think at that point that this water we're sending away, 6 months down the line, are we going to value that water? Are we going to be remembering that water we discarded back then as like this is too much extra water? 6 months down the line, then if we had the opportunity to use that water, we'd be like, oh God, that water would have been so helpful now when our crops are drying up and we don't have any borewell water left and all. So we need to figure out every farm, the government needs to take initiative to tell farmers to make swales on all their farms to trap that water. There should be water recharge techniques which are developed also. Now we have institutions like IIT and all with the brightest minds in the world sitting there. So we should be employing them to figure out solutions for things like this, that how do we make sure that the water we get within the span of like 4 to 5 months in a year, how that can be useful for us in our country for the rest of the year. Because when it goes in a nala, it will go in the river, then it goes into the sea. It's gone from us. And nature keeps giving us water every year, so we think it's like infinite and all, but we need that water when it's the dry season. And we are not living completely by nature's things, where in nature all the animals and all reach a point where they need less food once the rains have stopped, or they go underground and hibernate for the rest of the year. We want to be around for the whole year, so we need to figure out how to keep the water around. So you can make shettadas. Shettadas is a good thing. Only thing is, shettadas now people have started. Shettada is farm pond in English, but now people have started taking borewell water and filling the farm pond, which defeats the purpose. Ideally, you should make like a, if nothing else, make a small pit on your land, and in monsoon just pump water from there into the pond and collect it. So on our first rental farm we had done that there was a stream going, and they make dharans in the village to block the water and hold it back for some time. So when mid monsoon, nobody really cares if you take water from their dharan. Afterwards, of course, it's a limited resource, so nobody will let you, but when the rains are still on, you can pump water. We used to pump water from the dharan, and we used to fill our pond. So it was pure rainwater, and plants grow so much better in rainwater. Right. It's noticeable that once the first rain comes, they immediately burst to life, even if you were providing water. It's not that they were dry. So rainwater should be protected. We should figure out ways to tap that moisture and rainwater into our soil by growing things like trees and all, which the roots of trees also help break into the soil for that water to go down. They help the water infiltrate. When we increase organic matter, an increase of around 1% organic matter in your soil stores like more water than if you had like a acre ka dam. If you have like a 3-acre farm and you increase your soil by 1 acre, you're increasing the amount of water that gets held back after monsoon so much that you won't even need to water anything. Wow. For that season. Afterwards also, it'll hold on to the moisture, and it basically it's your water bank. So Subhash Sharma ji is a very famous natural farmer in India. He's in like the interior of Maharashtra. So in one of his podcasts, he was mentioning this, that we make dams at such a high cost, but the amount of water we could be storing as just in Maharashtra in our farms is more than all the dams which we are building, and it costs a fraction of that just to make some pits in the soil, to plant some trees. Won't cost much money. So we should have programs like that where farmers are incentivized to give like a tiny portion of their land for water harvesting structures, be it pits, be it like bunds, planting trees there, or focusing on increasing organic matter. Then we won't have water insecurity as much as a state or a country or a planet.
Right. So now that we have the land, now we have the water, we are thinking about that, right? And then we come to your favorite, heirloom seeds, right? So generally, first of all, please tell us, what are heirloom seeds? Like there is GMO, there is, hybrids and all that. What is heirloom seeds?
So heirloom seeds, in short, as the name may suggest, an heirloom is something given across generations. So heirloom seeds are, in short, the older seeds. By definition, they're 50 to 100 years old at least. But at the same time, I am a little more flexible with the definition, because I feel new varieties, if they possess the ability to be passed down for generations and generations, they can be held to the same standard. Of course, you can't legally call them heirloom. Open pollinated is the term, that without somebody going and doing like taking this cross pollen from something and doing and making a hybrid how they do in the labs, the farmer can save the seed from the same crop and plant it again, and it'll be the same crop. So heirlooms are basically those varieties. Now, because in the past heirloom seeds were developed by the farmers themselves, there was no companies back then, they used to prioritize not just yield, but they were eating the food themselves. So if some tomato becomes absolutely delicious, they will save seeds from that tomato, because they want to eat that tomato again. So those varieties are more tasty also. We evolved to taste and smell things because we need nutrition from those tastes, right? The taste is something, if we eat a tasty fruit, That's a nutritious fruit. That's why our brains are telling us that eat more, it's so delicious and all of that. So taste is linked to nutrition. So when the variety is tastier, it's more nutritious also. There are many varieties which tribal communities still grow, but many have been lost also to time, which are more medicinal. So there are rices which help people overcome certain diseases, which villagers would grow just when people are sick to feed them. Similarly, there are many other crops which have medicinal histories to them, that this variety of beans was eaten by these people to overcome this thing, or this crop was developed in the past to overcome scurvy. There are many citruses which were bred to be very rich in vitamin C, so that farmers could take them, and not farmers, the travelers could take them and eat them on their when they're shipping across the seas and all, to get enough vitamin C to overcome scurvy. There are all colored varieties which have more antioxidants. So sweet potatoes. Okinawa is a blue zone. So there are the huge number of centenarians. There are people above the age of 100. And one of their primary food crops is purple sweet potato. And it produces less than regular sweet potatoes, the white ones which we eat. But they have so much antioxidants. The purple color in that is from an antioxidant compound, anthocyanin. And that's one of the keys for them living so long. Of course, there's the community aspect, there's the lifestyle aspect, clean air, everything. But the crop is one, the heirloom crop of those regions have a lot of potential to be grown for other people also, so they can get benefits of those nutrients. So that in short is what heirloom is. They're the varieties, heirloom and open pollinated are the ones which can be preserved by the farmers themselves. They don't have to buy it every year. And they can continually grow it for generations and generations to come.
So this will stop one expense, major expense. When they're starting the farm, one time they buy seeds, and then after that you're done. You're like, every 1 kg will give you to at least 20 kg of produce. Out of that, you take 2 or 3 kgs and keep it for seed, and then you never have to buy seeds again.
Yeah. And it's not just a reduced expense, it's an empowerment, because when farmers figure out how to save their own seeds, they can save the seeds from the best performing variety for their land. Now, your land and your neighbor's land also have minute differences in it. There may be differences in the composition of minerals. There could be differences in how water drains through it. There could be differences in the presence of insects on that land and all. And when you save the seeds from the crop which worked best in those conditions and plant them again, they'll be so beautifully suited to those conditions. So we had a variety of beans called 1,500-year-old cave bean. So it's a very interesting story. It was found in a sealed clay pot in a cave in New Mexico. Wow. It's a rajma basically. Rajmas were developed in the Americas. So they dated the pot, and that pot was 1,500 years old and sealed in some cave. And they found beans in that. So they planted those beans, and those plants grew luckily. So they've saved that variety, and now it's available as 1,500-year-old cave bean. We originally got it from somebody who came from America with those beans, and then we planted them, and now we save them and we provide them online. So that variety, the first few years, it's a very delicious variety. It's tastier than any rajma I've had in my life, but its yield was low. And then suddenly one year, just out of nowhere, one plant grew so well and produced so many pods that we saved that pod, and now that variety is doing very well. We would only save, so that's an empowerment, right? Whereas hybrids are developed for lab conditions. They are tested in labs, or they're tested in sterile fields, or they're tested somewhere where the university is. They're not tested for your farm. The seeds weren't imbibed with the genetic potential to survive your conditions perfectly and thrive. Whereas when I've saved that seed for 3 years, I know it's been saved to, and it has the genetic potential to survive in my conditions.
Right.
So that's something else which farmers get scared of in heirloom seeds, that the yield is less.
Yes, that's the next question I was going to ask. Yes.
But it's a matter of perspective. So when I'm also talking to many of my natural farmer friends, are still reliant on hybrids because they have an obligation to provide a certain amount of food to their communities and those farmers markets we're in. But I tell them that, so heirlooms, the approach is very different. So think about it in the past. If, say, my grandfather, if he was a farmer, his brother traveled to some other village and he saw something growing very well, he's not going to get 1 kg of seeds from there, right? He'll get just a few in his pocket. At those times, they would like walk or travel by very inefficient means and stuff.
They'll bring a little bit in their portly.
So they would bring just few beans of this or few seeds of some tomato or something. You plant just those 2-3. You grow those, you save more seeds from those, then you plant it on a slightly higher scale. So if you planted one small patch, then maybe you'll do like 2-3 beds next time. Then again you save the best seeds from that, and then you plant the 1 acre. You don't directly go and plant 1 acre, right? So in those 3 seasons of you multiplying the seeds, you've also adapted the plant to your area. Seeds, many people don't realize just how like babies get the microbiome, all the beneficial microbes from their mother. Seeds also get beneficial microbes from the mother plant. And when those beneficial microbes are adapted to the area which they're growing in, those are like the ones which are able to function well in your soil. So it gets a head start in your soil because it has the microbes know exactly what the soil is like, what the conditions are like. So that's another head start. The genetic head start is there. And you've also got the empowerment of choosing how yielding the variety is, how much we discussed about biomass of the thing. So you can select the rice which produces biomass well, because you need to feed your cows afterwards in the dry season and all of that. So it's an empowering thing that you won't start off with 1 year you plant heirlooms on your whole farm and it's a success story. Everyone wants the success stories in agriculture. They want the YouTube. They want the YouTube titles of like man earns 3 crores from acre by growing this wonder crop. They don't want the story of man brought 3 seeds from here and they grew 3 tomato plants and now they're growing 25, and then next year they'll grow 100 and then they'll grow in a field. But that's the nature of heirlooms, and it's an investment of time and energy, but that time and energy pays you back.
Worth it.
And you have control over it, and you know when you are eating it also, you know you're eating something good and healthy for your family. Farmers have lost that connect. You may have also noticed in your area that they're not growing food for themselves.
Not at all.
It's a factory basically, that they're growing food just to give to the tempo wala. And then, so there's a guy next to me, he's growing beans. And he told me himself, normally what happens is when they grow jawar and stuff like that, they'll offer like a kg or two. If I go to their farm, they'll give that. The beans, he said, no. I'm like, okay, no worries, it's okay. Is your yield less this time or something? He said, no, don't eat it. I have been spraying 7-8 like different cocktails of chemicals on this every 3 days. I don't eat it myself. My family doesn't eat it. I don't want to give it to you in good conscience. But they'll give it to the tempo wala to take it to the city, and then in the city people will eat.
My God, in Tamil Nadu, I have seen farmers, they have ye market ke liye hai, and they have another small patch, ye ghar ke liye hai.
Absolutely.
They grow there, nice one, natural way.
They don't want to eat that only, and they don't like the taste of it. So in some seasons or even in monsoon, there is, even in our village right now, there is Gauran Kothambir, which is the desi variety. It has a beautiful aroma and all. And there's hybrid Kothambir. So they'll grow hybrid kothambir for the market only for yield, and they won't touch it also because it tastes like nothing. Even if they didn't spray, it just doesn't have any taste. They don't feel like eating it only.
Just like water.
Yeah, so they'll just grow few Gauran Kothambir for themselves. But when you're growing those heirlooms, you have the potential to eat it also yourself, right? Then why should have? That's what we joke in our family, that my mom is like, you can do farming, but mujhe tere ghar mein roti chahiye. So I said, I'm a farmer. I should never have an issue of roti at least. I may not have makan or anything, money I won't have, but at least food I should be able to grow for myself. But if that's it, if farmers are starving, then that shows that the system and the mentality only is so different now, right? That the farmers should be able to grow food first for themselves, and then the excess they should be able to sell to make some money and cover their costs, but they should be able to eat the food they grow. And that's something which is not happening. So with heirlooms, they'll have that ability also, that they'll be able to enjoy the produce on their own farm. And luckily, I think many city people, when they start farming, are getting interested in heirlooms more than hybrids, because they have access to hybrids here, and they don't need that the 30 rupees a kg, which a poor farmer may feel like hybrid guarantees them that they'll get some amount of money for their pockets. City people don't have that desperation that they're okay if a little less money is made in the short run, but they want to eat for themselves. So that's why a lot of them choose these heirloom crops, and then they realize that heirlooms are also producing. It's just a matter of, we'll have to as a society adjust when we want the food also. We cannot want every year, whole year we want mango, whole year we want tomato, whole year we want everything. We also have to eat seasonally, and that according to Ayurveda, that's beneficial for us also.
For digestion.
But when people want everything, and they'll pay extra out of season, so the farmers are incentivized to grow out of season, and when you grow out of season, you have to grow hybrids, because the heirloom crops are built to thrive in the conditions which they were bred, which over years they grew in. That if they were grown in monsoon for like 1,000 years, they have to be sown in monsoon again, and then they'll grow beautifully. But hybrids, they can develop for whatever off season. they don't need to worry about nutrition of the crop, taste of the crop, and they sell it.
Coming to what your mom said, I am reminded the reason I personally got into farming is because of my grandmother. My grandmother, we are from Ooty, and agricultural families, and my grandmother was the richest woman I have seen in life. I mean, not in terms of money, in terms of giving. Like, there was never a person who has come to my grandmother's home and gone empty handed.
Wow.
She was always, two big bags of, she just go to the field just in front of her house, get all kinds of produce from there, fill 2 bags, and Horlicks bottle. We used to have these Horlicks bottles those times, full of milk from our cows, and give. So as a child, and I looked at my grandmother, she used to look like a queen. Whoever came to our house, she just used to give, That was something that stayed with me.
Yeah.
I used to think that should be real rich person, right?
Absolutely.
So
And to be able to feed someone is such a big thing. You can give people money, but to give them something you've grown yourself and you know that this will make them healthier, this will help them grow, nourish them.
Yes.
That's such a privilege which most people don't have. So that's what I also hope to, through farming, to be able to get to that point where I also have the privilege to feel that like I've given people something so good for them and I've helped them so much in their life, regardless of the money and all is secondary. I think if I have enough money to sustain myself, that's enough. But if I can feel that, those people, I've really, people in my community itself, not to call them those people, I think we've made consumer and producer and all two distinct and alien. It's our community members. We are doing all our duties as different parts of the community. So if I feel like I've done my duty well as somebody who's supposed to feed them, then that is true wealth, right? You can that's something which I feel you can't take money with you after you're gone, but that good karma you can take with yourself after you're gone. So
amazing. I really love. Now we are almost to the end of our podcast. What I want you to tell me is, as a consumer, okay, on the other side, as a consumer, I am right now, I love to do farming, but I'm not there yet. I am not able to do. As a consumer, what I should look for in my life I want to lead a conscious living. We are, Vatsa Padam is for that, we want to promote conscious living. Our philosophy is this, that, let's say I'm buying a cosmetic, I'm buying a cream. I have the right to know what is in it. And then whether I accept chemicals, I don't accept chemicals, it's up to me. Let's say I like chemicals, I use it. But I should not be given something which I am not aware. I think it's good for me, and then it actually harms me, right? I feel Vatsa Padam believes that everybody should have the right to be aware of what we know. So like that, in food, what I want to ask you is what we should be aware of, what as a customer we should look for. Okay, if I as a conscious living customer in food, what are the things I should look for?
So I'd say it's very similar. I think in all fields it should be the same way, that know the producer. So whether it's the producer of food, or whether it's producer of the products you're using, or whether it's the producer of the clothes you're wearing, there's something invaluable about knowing. So they can ask you if they have questions about their cosmetics, about how it will affect them and all. You are able to give them an answer. If they were to go to the giant companies which are ruling the market, they won't give an answer. They'll directly throw like Aishwarya Rai in front of them that she uses this. They'll pay her to say she uses it, and people will have to take their word for it that okay, this is safe. This must be safe. They'll show a mother putting it on her daughter in the ad and all. But you can actually explain exactly how they can understand your philosophy behind it. That's something which is even in our farmers. So I'm lucky to be affiliated with a group of natural farmers in Pune and natural food consumers in Pune who've started these groups, Healthy Food Bank, and affiliated groups with it all across Pune. And the whole principle behind it is that people, it's not only that they should have access to organic food or natural food, that even many markets claim, like Big Basket claims that it's giving organic and stuff, but they should have access to know their farmers. That is something which in today's day nobody knows. Even if you go to the village, you will know a farmer, but the way the food system is set up, that they've given it to that tempo which takes it to market yard, and then market yard they sell it to some other guy, and that other guy will sell it to our local kirana dukan and stuff. You will never be able to find out who the farmer of that produce is. But in this way, you get to know exactly whose hands have grown the food which you are producing. You get to know what kind of people they are, and it makes a difference when you know, when the energy that has been put behind growing your food is good. It makes a huge difference, not just to the nutrition but how you feel eating it. Many people, one lady called me just few days back. She's a frequent consumer of natural foods from those groups, in one of them in Pashan. She told me she had called me for something else, and she then just at one point she said, Neel, can I be honest with you, I have been so much happier since buying my food from here. I used to only buy natural foods, but I've been happier from here, and it's all thanks to all of you farmers, because I see you guys and you guys are so happy growing it and stuff, that you're putting that good energy into the food. And in Indian kitchens, it's a common thing, right? That the vibration when you're cooking the food makes a difference.
Who cooks? That
Who
hand
cooks?
that cooked it
Yeah,
is very important.
and that's why they used to say that, like, ladies used to sing all nice songs and devotional songs and stuff while cooking or while grinding the jawar or harvesting and stuff. It was all because that the even if you don't look at it from the pseudoscience lens, it's better for our society, right? If everyone who's at every stage is happy and everyone is fulfilled and everyone is motivated to do a good job, it's better for us in the long run. So I think getting to know your farmers, you can, if you don't have access to a group like that near you, which if anyone needs, I can help them in Pune, but start something like that. Find one farmer. I think this group also was started with one farmer. They found natural farming somewhere near Pune. They would go there to that farm and get food. He would not come there because it didn't make sense that there were 2-3 people. They would travel, get the wheat or whatever that farmer was growing, and come back home and eat it. So start like that, build a community around it. There are plenty of natural farmers, as you must be aware now.
Yes.
And with social media, it's easier to connect with them also.
Yes.
It's easy to find, like, oh, this is a natural farm near me, let me go there. They'll know 3 other natural farmers around them, somewhere around Pune. You go meet them, give them also, it's better for them also that if they have a platform where they can come in the city and show their produce and get fair prices for it, so that they can continue to do a good job.
Right.
So that's there. And another thing we discussed in our group, one of my farmer friends from the group, Shubham Shelke, on Instagram, he made a very nice reel recently. I think he goes by the Millennial Farmer on Instagram. That farming is a social responsibility, not in the sense that like farmers are doing it, but everyone is involved. If you want natural food and if you want chemical free food, but cosmetics you're using ones which have dangerous chemicals which you pour down the sink and you think it's going somewhere, but that's going into the rivers. That river ka pani is going back into the farm, and that same chemical is going to be there. Or antibiotics has become trendy now to use. People are using antibiotics left, right, and center.
It's
And
a whole
antibiotics,
big topic.
and those antibiotics are going to go again down the drain, whether it be through human waste or whether you wash it off or whether it goes in the trash. It again gets back into this. We have a limited space in the earth. Nothing goes out of the earth.
Right.
Unless they're talking about Mars and all of that, but they're not going to take our waste here.
Right.
All that chemical waste, those antibiotics won't break down. They'll go in the rivers, they'll cause damage there. Then when they go on the crops, whether you like it or not, you're going to be consuming those chemical molecules through your food.
Right.
So it's not possible to expect just the farmers to take responsibility of clean food. We have to. If the air is not clean, then how is the food going to be clean?
Everybody,
If we have such pollution, which is happening not because of the farmers, it's happening because of the entire society. So society needs to figure out those dangerous pollutants in the air are also going to come on the food. They're also going to affect the growth of the plant. So we as a society need to realize we are all responsible for the food being produced, not just the farmers being responsible. And if we want good food, we all have to figure out how to adjust our own lifestyles to promote that. So whether it be buying from these farmers and supporting them, whether it be adopting conscious lifestyles and reducing our waste, reducing our impact on the environment, reducing the kind of chemicals we put unnecessarily. We don't need to put like acid and bleach on our balconies to clean it every time. We can use things like bioenzymes which do a wonderful job, and they're also probiotic and they're also natural. They don't have scents which cause cancers and lung problems and all. So it's a very complicated topic, and everyone, it'll take lifetimes to do it. And that's how cultures evolve, right? That somebody takes the decision and those changes build up slowly through generations and generations.
Small step at a time.
Small steps.
Yeah.
We can't expect perfection immediately, but if we have that seed, if we plant in ourselves that we want to be more conscious in our lifestyle, we want to live a certain type of life which has XYZ impact on our planet, and to promote this type of future planet, then we'll start adopting those changes. Then our next generation will take it a few steps further. The generation after that will take it maybe 2 steps further more. And that's how we'll get there.
Thank you. It's been such a wonderful thing. It's been such a wonderful, eye-opening discussion, right? I hope people who are watching, especially young people, if they are watching, because they have a long life, they get this early. In spiritual life also we say young minds need to be trained first because they have a long life to put it to practice. So I want this. We in Vatsapadam we have this. We go to schools. And talk about conscious living to 6th standard, 7th standard kids, because we feel we have to put that thing in their mind, at that age. So we do that. So similarly, I want this discussion to go really far and wide, and more people listen to somebody so young and inspired like you. Thank you so much. Thank
you so much. And this is your first podcast, so I wish you huge success ahead. I'm looking forward to all the future podcasts. Hopefully, more intelligent guests than me. I'll be able to learn a lot from these podcasts. And best of luck ahead.
Thank you, Neel. And if you want to get in touch with Neel, we have his contact number, his social media details in the description below. So please, he is in Pune, so you can get directly in touch with him and join him in this wonderful movement. Thank you. Thank you, Neel. It's a small token of gratitude for enlightening us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.